Hey everybody, thanks for tuning in. This week it's going to be a little bit of a shorter one. I'm just going to get into some leather selection and then we're going to go on to casing and how to properly case your leather. That way going forward I'm not putting it in the beginning of tooling videos and stuff like that. We'll have like a steady reference to be able to look back on. So, first off, this is some Sapichi Veg Tan. I get it from OA Leather Supply. It's what I do all of my marbling on. I find it dyes really nice, it takes paint really nice, but I'm not a fan of tooling it. It's just like almost like, I want to say like a little bit plasticky maybe, and it feels like a little bit finished even though it isn't unglazed. So this is something I would use for like key fobs or things that I'm just embossing, so just like putting a stamp onto, not necessarily tooling, but it is really nice for marbling and dyeing as well. This is Wickett and Craig's Veg Tan. It has a nice smooth finish front and back. Really, really, really beautiful veg tan. Probably my favorite that I've tooled so far, but extremely expensive. So it's not really something that I use all that often. This is literally all I have left right now of it. So I will save that for something versus using it as a little example. This though is my go-to, my everyday Herman Oak. It's just such a classic leather. You know, it looks beautiful when it's tooled, when it's left plain. It catches up patina really nice. It has a fairly decent backside. You can get it in different grains, or sorry, different grades as well too. Like you can get tooling leather, you can get like A, B, C, D grade. So it'll depend, like that'll, you know, be if there's like tons of bug bites or things like that. For the most part, I just get the tooling grade. It is a nice flat grain. It is also like a little bit of a redder color. This is not something I would use. This is closer to like the armpit or the belly, and it's quite stretchy. So this I'll usually cut off and use for scraps of other things, but this is quite a nice little piece here. I'm just going to go ahead and cut it into a little bit better shape for you to be able to see, and then we're going to case it. So I know there's a lot of different ways that people do this. Some people soak it in just like by submerging it in water. You allow for all the bubbles to come up, and then it should be good to go, like set it aside and then it should be good to go. I prefer to tape the back side of mine. You may have seen that before, you may not have, but I just use packing tape. I know some people also use painter's tape or whatever. It really doesn't matter. I just find, of course, I just find this sticks nicely. It stays on while I'm working, and it protects the leather from stretching, which will happen if you don't tape it. So I usually just do like a straight and then a little bit of a diagonal. You don't have to be neat with it. You're going to be peeling it off and chucking it out later. So this is probably the only wasteful thing I really do. So I'll just use a glass slicker to push it down. You know, you can also use a roller or whatever just to really get that tape settled in there. And just kind of cut away the excess. Oops. Try not to do that. Okay, and from there, what I'll do is I'll start to incorporate or introduce some water, and you'll see that it does like soak in quite quickly. It's just the leather is a little thirsty. So once it starts to kind of pool and sit on the surface there, what I like to do is take a glass slicker and I will push water down, and essentially you're pushing it into the center of the leather. You're flattening your grain out, and it just helps it absorb more evenly. And you can see it does also kind of slick and smooth the grain a little bit. And what that's going to do is give you a very, very nice surface to tool on. It'll be nice and even, no big like lumps and bumps. It kind of evens out the grain a little bit. And from there, this is a trick that I learned from watching Peter Main. He's a very amazing tooler. Check his videos out for sure. Is I put it under a piece of glass and just let it sit for a couple hours. I go about my business. I like do a drawing, I make a stencil, whatever, and then I'll, when I'm just about ready to start tooling, I will lift the glass off, allow it to dry out a little bit more. I know some people will actually put this in, pardon me, a sandwich bag in the fridge, which is great too. You don't want to leave wet leather in a bag in the heat. It will mold, it'll be gross, it'll be a big mess, you'll just have to throw it out. So if you are not tooling right away, I would suggest do put it in the fridge. It'll keep it from getting all weird. But like I said, for the most part, I just throw mine under a piece of glass. It keeps the water from evaporating super quick. This is just a little glass cutting board I got at the dollar store. And yeah, we'll come back to it in a minute. So just to compare, this is the color we have when your leather's wet. This is its natural state as you would receive it from your supplier. And this is the color we want, so it's just right in the mid-range. This is the color we want it to be just before we start tooling or stamping on it. It means the water is absorbed in nicely, it's dry to the touch, the grain is nice and flat and tight, and this is going to take to cutting, to stamping, to modeling, you know, to sculpting very, very well. If you were to do that on here, you can see it is quite pliable while it is this wet, so you'll get a lot of stretching. Your cut lines won't be as clean. You really want to go for this nice, evenly distributed water. And like I said, it takes a little bit of time. It's good to just kind of, you know, do your casing, walk away, and let it do its thing. And then just for example, as you can see, this is a trucker wallet that I did recently. I keep the tape on until I'm completely done. So that means all the painting, all the antiquing, all that stuff. I still leave the tape on. As you can see though, it has kept a nice, even shape. So all the water I added to it, all, you know, the stamping, the tooling, that's all stuff that could stretch out, distort these edges and whatnot, and it's just left it nice and crisp. So from here I would just peel that off, glue it together, and go about making my little key fob. I hope this has been helpful, and please leave any questions in the comments below, and I'll see you in the next one.